You know, a 10,000-mile trip is nothing to sneeze at. There's a couple of really important projects that came up recently that I undertook to get ready for this epic journey. The first one was from a routine inspection of my exterior sealant and seals to make sure that the RV is completely waterproof. And the second one was, you know, as I've been towing, I've just been noticing that when I go over bumps, I kind of get this bouncy effect off the rear of my tow vehicle. And I really wanted to have somebody look at that before I headed out on this trip because I didn't want there to be a safety issue with towing. So I'm going to talk about both of those today.
Even though I store my RPod under cover, it's imperative to check weather seals often. After 4 seasons of owning my RPod, I noticed on routine inspection that the trim that covers the exterior screws had cracked. The trim was pretty flimsy, as you can see here, and it was in such bad shape that it was easily removed to expose the screws underneath. After you unscrew the end caps, the trim pretty easily just comes right out of the channel. I only encountered one problem, and that was when I got to the top of the RPod, the awning got in the way.
Nothing is easy, is it? So the vinyl strip goes right underneath the awning right here. So now I'm like, do I have to take the whole awning off? Oh, what a pain. Jeez. Nothing's ever easy.
Okay, so I just decided not to replace the trim under the awning because I think that's a weatherproof location and the sealant around the awning was in really good shape. Alright, so I'm not sure how long these cracks had been there in the trim, so I decided to inspect some of the screws underneath, and sure enough, found that some, but not all, were rusted. But I also noticed that the screws were square head, and I don't know about you, but I hate square head screws. In my experience, I find they strip really easily. So I decided to replace those screws with Phillips head exterior screws. For this project, I decided to replace only 2 screws at a time. Now, what you see here is I'm removing 2 screws. One is a 1 5/8 inch, and another one is a 3-inch screw. So first I added a bead of caulk to each screw hole for some extra weatherproofing, and then I replaced the screws with the same size screws that I took out. Make sure to get exterior screws again. You're going to repeat this process of removing 2 screws and replacing 2 screws across the exterior of your RV. Don't take all the screws out at once and then put new screws in. The wall of your RV will probably fall off. In order to install new trim, I first needed to make sure I had the right width, and you can see here that it's measuring at 1 inch. I went to Amazon, found some heavy-duty vinyl insert trim, and purchased that. So I suggest you give the caulking a day or so to dry, and then after that, apply the new vinyl trim in the channel. You can tell that this trim is definitely heavier duty because it's taken some thumb strength to get it in there. But just take your time, go a little at a time, and you'll find that it fits in there snugly and perfectly. I don't know if this helps, but it couldn't hurt. So I just applied a coating of UV protectant to the trim, and you can see it looks really good, nice and shiny, and makes a really nice finish. All right, let's move on to talk about improvements to the suspension on my tow vehicle, which is a 2017 Toyota Tacoma. One of the things that always bothered me, because the hitch weight of an RPod is about 350 pounds, is that when I was towing, I would get about 2 inches of deflection on my hitch, which meant that when hooked up, it would push my bumper down 2 inches. I also noticed that when driving over bumps, my truck would kind of trampoline a little bit after getting over those bumps, and so I always wanted to improve that suspension. So I towed my Tacoma and my R-Pod to a local towing expert who recommended an air suspension system for the low cost of $2,048. Did I mention that I am now retired? You know, sometimes the best thing to do is just wait a little bit and see what the universe brings you. So, an R-Pod rally was coming up, and I met some really great new friends, Terrell and Tammy. Terrell and Tammy have a Toyota Tacoma, and they are towing their R-Pod with it. So I asked them about what they do about this suspension, and they told me about Sumo Springs. And what's great about this is that they're easy to install. You can see here I took a picture of Tammy and Terrell's Sumo Spring. It sits on top of the leaf springs of the Toyota Tacoma to give the frame additional support. I went ahead and ordered the Sumo Springs from Amazon, and I just want you to notice the difference in price between this and the air system that was recommended by the towing expert. Can I just say that this is much more suited for a retiree's budget? All right, time to put my mechanic hat on and get underneath the truck. Super easy to install the Sumo Springs. Took me about, I'd say, 20 minutes. And it just involves loosening the U-bolts, taking off the old spring, which is only about an inch high, frankly. Didn't even touch the frame, putting in the Sumo Springs. And you can see how much taller they are, and they go right up to the frame of the Tacoma, which provides a lot of additional suspension support. So I gotta say that this improvement has really been excellent. You can see here in this picture that the towing is a lot more level. I'm only getting 1 inch of deflection now, so that's outstanding. Secondly, going over bumps is so smooth. I don't feel like I'm getting that trampolining effect anymore, and the ride is just a lot more stable. So I just want to shout out to Terrell and Tammy. Thank you guys for the advice. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so in closing, one of the things that I wanted to say was that I learned a lot through the process. When I got that $2,000 bid on the suspension fix, I was like, well, I guess that's what it's going to cost. And then something inside told me, just wait a bit and hold on and let's see what the universe has. And I went then to the R-Pod rally at the Ocean here in Washington State. Sure enough, there were people there who had been down the road before, sharing great advice, and the solution ended up costing, $1,700 less. So that's the other thing I learned, is go to R-Pod rallies. If you haven't gone to R-Pod rallies, they're really fun. Share your ideas, share your great ideas, and then make some new friends and get to know other people. And maybe you'll save $1,700 in the process. So I've got a list of things to do still. My next video will probably be going down that list of things that I'm doing to prep for this epic trip. So stay tuned, subscribe, and we will see you all soon. Take care.